Hello everyone, welcome back. Today's post is from our /best of Redditors update. I, 25F, discovered my BF, 28M, of 3 years is cheating. Tonight is the biggest night of his life. Help me. I won't go into all the gory details of our relationship. We were in love, and well, I still love him. But I found out, clearly he does not feel the same way towards me. I discovered a proof that he has been cheating on me for a while, in the form of small home movies of them. I don't know the girl, and from the looks of their conversations, yep, went ahead and post-discovery snooped, she has no idea I exist. Tonight is the biggest night of my BF's life. He's receiving a state award at a big dinner with a few hundred people attending, from his mom and dad to the councilman and all of that. In fact, the only reason I discovered this transgression is because I have been putting together a little video for him to enjoy some of the key moments of his life. You know, the typical sappy thing. I'm burdened with a lot of power right now, and I don't know if I have it in me to do the right thing. Or if I even know the right thing. I'm blinded with tears of rage and sadness and betrayal, but at the same time, I love him, have loved him. Do I really want to do this? The relationship is over, no doubt about it. I am not a woman who will take her man cheating on her, certainly not. That's not the issue. The issue is, there are cutesy selfies of the two of them. A lot of them, only shared between the two of them. Nothing lewd, there's plenty of that on the camera, though. Do I sneak one in the snap reel as a way of letting him know that I know? Or do I simply confront him after his moment in the sun passes? I'm not going to pick up everything and leave without cutting contact. That's not my style and it wouldn't make me feel good, just very sad. Do I do the bitchy thing for once in my life? To anyone looking at the snap reel, it would just look like a picture of him and a friend. But to him, and to me, it would be a private message, an outing. Help me, Reddit. I don't know what to do this time. OP posted an update 6 weeks later. Well, it's been a month and a half since this all went down. I have gotten so many requests for an update and I never intended to actually give one, honestly, because I was afraid of the fallout depending on what I ended up doing. So what did I do? I did the immature, vengeful thing. And I don't regret it. I took a few photos of the two of them, tasteful photos that gave off no indication other than she might be a childhood friend. I slipped them into the snap reel. And I spoke kindly of him at the podium, then after my turn was finished, I walked out. I drove home feeling calm and in control. 20 minutes later, the text started. Where did I go? What do I know? Where did I find the photos? Was there more in store for him? I texted him, I know you've been effing her. But there are no more photos. There weren't any, and of course I left it at that. He didn't come home that night. Or the next. The third day, he called me to ask me if we could meet and talk at a public location. I agreed to meet him at Starbucks. I arrived early, waited for him. He showed up a few minutes late and took the seat across from me. He started right off with the excuses, how it just happened and he regrets it fully, she doesn't mean anything to him, and that she looked like a girl he had a crush on during high school and he was powerless against his teenage self. I didn't interrupt him, just let him have his time. When he was done and looking at me for a sign of what might happen next, all I could say was, so where did you stay the past few nights? Her house. And what did you do? He wouldn't answer. There hadn't been any doubt in my mind. Really? I knew I was leaving him. He talked over himself, apologizing, begging for forgiveness, saying he'd change. I told him that I didn't want him to have to change himself. That if who he was, naturally, was someone who cheated on his girlfriend, then that's not someone I wanted to be with. He said that he was thinking of proposing to me, and all I could say after that was good thing I found out before. Fast forward to a few weeks later. He's moved out, and I am doing well. We have cut off contact. People ask me about him all the time, and I just let them know, he left me for a girl who looked like his high school crush. So that's the end. We are broken up. We are never, ever, ever getting back together. I don't feel any regret for how I handled it. Like one commenter said, there's no need to take the high road all the time. Our next story is a post from our /Ada. Ida for tricking my parents into being on time for my wedding. I'm 33, parents are late for everything. Like everything. Both of my sisters and myself have been disappointed so many times. Graduation ceremonies, birthday parties, even my father's retirement dinner. It is completely my mother's fault. She is a wonderful mother and I love her dearly, she just does not understand the concept of punctuality. I have seen her talking to her sister on the phone and reminded her she needed to be at my baby sister's dance recital. She waved me off and arrived after my sister had danced. We are all used to it. My dad is just done trying to get her to be on time for anything. My now wife, F28, told me in no uncertain terms that if my mother was late for our wedding she would do terrible things to me. She was only half joking. But she was a witness to my mom and dad arriving halfway through my cousin's quinceañera. So here is what I did. It is completely on me. Me wife was not involved. If there is a D move, it was completely mine. When we were getting samples for the wedding, I talked to the printer and had one special invitation printed with the time on it stated being 1 hour earlier than the actual start time of the ceremony. My mother was beside herself apparently, when they left the house and thought they were going to miss the wedding since she was a part of it with her and my mill lighting the candles we would use to light the unity candle and stuff. When she arrived and noticed other people were also just arriving and parking, she was so relieved that we were starting late that she just went with it. The ceremony went off beautifully. And so did the wedding pictures and the reception. The problem came last Sunday. My parents came over for a big family dinner and we didn't bother starting the grill until they showed up. She asked why everyone wasn't eating and we just said we knew we would be waiting for them since they are always late. She said that she was not always late and had been on time for my wedding. She hadn't been. They arrived 45 minutes after the time on their invitation. My naughty cousin John, real name because it's common and he deserves, for people to know he is adult, snorted at her statement. A few other people giggled or smiled at this and she picked up and asked what was so funny. I came clean and told her about the special invitation. She is pissed at me for not trusting her and making her look foolish in front of everyone. If my cousin had just controlled himself, she never would have known. Ida? Our next story is posted from our /relationship advice. My 26F husband's 26M family keeps referring to me as his best friend. What does this mean? 2 months after our wedding day, we celebrated my birthday at my in-laws' house. It was nothing major, just a dinner and a night together with me, my husband, his mom, 50SF, dad, 50SM, and sister 22F. That is the first night I noticed them referring to me as Robbie's best friend. After my birthday dinner, we were all sitting together in the living room, just chatting and having some drinks. That's when my sister-in-law got a phone call from a good friend of hers. When she answered the phone and her friend asked what she was doing, she replied that it was her brother's best friend's birthday. I had never heard anyone refer to me as Robbie's best friend. I am his wife, and before that we were engaged for over 2 years. Hearing my sister-in-law refer to me like that confused me greatly. I always refer to her as my sister-in-law, and I would expect her to do the same. Or maybe even as Robbie's wife, but certainly not best friend. After my sister-in-law hung up her phone, I asked her why she referred to me the way she did. She did not seem at all abashed. She just said, "Well, you are best friends. And that's what mom and dad call you," referring to mother-in-law and father-in-law. My sister-in-law and I are by no means very close, but we are nice to each other and have never had any fights. We just don't hang out outside of family functions because our personalities are pretty different. She's never made it seem like she was annoyed or mad at me. I decided to let it go that night, even though it weirded me out. But then it all happened again a few days ago, which is why I'm writing this post. My mother-in-law and I both work in the same industry doing similar jobs, but at different companies in the area. Sometimes our companies collaborate when we have clients who switch over. This week we had that happen, and I had to pay a visit to my mother-in-law's office to help a client transition. My mother-in-law was in the office, so I stopped by to say hello. While I was there, she introduced me to her colleague, and once again I was perplexed by how she did it. She said, "This is my son's best friend." As I was shaking hands with the colleague, I paused and awkwardly said, "I'm his wife." The colleague looked confused, but my mother-in-law continued to smile and didn't address it. Once we were alone, I asked my mother-in-law why she referred to me like that. Just like my sister-in-law, she didn't seem to act like it was weird at all, and said the same thing, "Well, you are best friends." The only thing that I can think to explain this is that in my vows to Robbie I promised to continue being his best friend. Nobody acted like this was odd or special, and I feel like it's a pretty common thing to put in vows. So I'm not sure why Robbie's family seems to have clung to it, unless it has nothing to do with everything. I've spoken to Robbie about this too, and he is also perplexed by it. He asked his parents privately about it and they gave him the same answer they've been giving me. It all just feels like some sort of bullying behavior to me, but I've never felt a sense of this from them before. Are they calling me his best friend because they don't like the fact I'm his wife? Or is it some inside joke they've been on without me? I'm not sure what to do or make of it, especially because the in-laws are acting like it's not an issue when I bring it up. Yes, I am Robbie's best friend, but I'm also his life partner, and their daughter-in-law and sister-in-law. I don't know what to do. Any input or advice would be welcome. OP posted an update. Thanks to everyone who offered helpful advice, and to those who have been kind in sharing their own experiences. I'm sorry to hear that this is not exactly a unique experience. Unfortunately, for my relationship with Robbie's family, things have hit the fan. Yesterday afternoon, Robbie and I were invited over to his parents' house for dinner. I have a big project due this week at work, so I needed to stay home and wrap it up. I told Robbie to go catch up with his family while I order a pizza. Apparently, This is when Robbie decided he was going to set things straight and figure out why his mom and sister keep referring to me as his best friend. Please keep in mind that I'm telling this story based on the details that my husband has given me. Robbie had a normal dinner with his folks, but they were all drinking a bit more than usual. Robbie decided to bring over some scotch that one of his groomsmen gave him for a wedding gift, so him and his dad were especially loose. Robbie and his dad tend to have guy time together after dinners where they hang out in his dad's garage and talk about car stuff and projects at home or work. This is where Robbie confronted his dad about the whole situation. From what I can tell, it took some coaxing to get this information out of father-in-law, but eventually he admitted to Robbie that my mother-in-law and sister-in-law and him were all in on some sort of bet as to how long my marriage was going to last. Father-in-law bet that we would stay together, whereas mother-in-law bet less than 1 year, and sister-in-law bet less than 6 months. Apparently, there was a cash prize involved. I don't really want to know how much it was. Father-in-law admitted that he believes the whole best friend moniker was a way to get under my skin and cause doubts about my relationship with Robbie and his family. They think that if they acted like it was a non-issue for long enough, that it would drive me crazy and start making me angry at Robbie for not intervening. Robbie then says he stormed into the house to confront his mom about this all. It ended in a screaming match between Robbie, mother-in-law, and father-in-law. Robbie eventually stormed out and walked to a nearby gas station, and from there he called me for a ride since he couldn't drive. This morning, when I drove Robbie back to get his car, we had a horribly awkward confrontation with his parents. Mother-in-law is apparently upset at father-in-law for betraying the secret, and they were fighting about it all night. Father-in-law will be staying with us in our extra bedroom for a couple days, or until they can calm down and talk to each other again. Robbie is now set on going no contact with his mom and sister. He is angry with his father but is more willing to forgive him. Personally, I would prefer if we saw a family therapist before doing this, but we are still ironing out the details. Hopefully, we can get through this with both marriages intact. That's it for now. See you in the next post.